Hello, I'm Don Hart. I wanted to take a couple of minutes with you and give you some of my thinking behind the reason I wrote Is Suffering God's Plan? Let me begin by answering my own question, which is the answer is yes. It is God's plan. And there's a very, very good reason, or a number of reasons, as to why God says it's necessary for us to suffer and to understand suffering, and that it is very much a part of God's plan for the redemption of man. Suffering also is because when we sin, there are consequences, and some of it can be severe. When we go back to Eve in the Garden of Eden, and she allowed herself to be deceived by the serpent. The text says that this was the most crafty of all the animals that God had created. And Adam himself did nothing to protect his wife. And so the suffering becomes severe. He tells Eve that he's going to increase her suffering in childbirth. So suffering was already going to be there. Now it gets a lot worse. Now we look at somebody like Joseph. Joseph was a brash young man, aggravated his brothers, and they weren't too happy with him. Ultimately, they sold him into slavery in Egypt. And at one point, he languishes in prison for 2 years, accused of something he did not do. But he remained faithful to God throughout that ordeal. Throughout his suffering, he never wavered. And God blessed him. Eventually, he became the one who was in charge under Pharaoh of all of Egypt. And he recognized that there were going to be 7 lean years and 7 prosperous years. And so during those prosperous years, he made provision for that time that was coming. And then his brothers, the ones who had sold him into slavery, come begging because of this famine that is throughout the land. And when they finally realize that it is Joseph, their younger brother, they are met with fear and trembling and worry, because now he was in this position of authority. But Joseph reminds them that what they intended for evil, God intended for good, and there was a blessing there. But God was also very protective of the early church. We have Ananias and Sapphira, who decided that it was okay to lie to the church. God said, not so. And he struck both of them dead very, very quickly. But then we come to Jesus himself and that ultimate sacrifice, the ultimate suffering for our good. John 3:16, God so loved the world that he gave his only son, his only unique son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. But it cost Jesus his life. He was completely and totally innocent, and he takes all of our suffering upon himself in order that we may be saved, in order that we will spend eternity in the presence of a holy God, an absolute sovereign Lord. So you might want to go back and reread that little article and help to realize that whatever suffering you're going through, God has put it there, but he's put it there for your blessing and for your benefit. Have a blessed day, and thanks for watching this video.